Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series Retro Revamp Rewind, where we take a look at some of my favorite games from the earliest episodes I did on my channel. Because while I have covered these games before in years past, my audience when I talked about them was quite small compared to what it is now. But these games are some of my favorite and some of the most incredible games I've ever played, so I definitely want to bring them to a wider audience and tell you guys all about them. Before I get too far involved though, if you do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps me out. And if you feel so inclined, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But today, obviously we're talking about PuLiRuLa. It is a very hard game to pronounce. It's an even harder game to explain exactly what's going on, but it's one of the most unique and individual beat-em-ups I have ever played. Now originally I showed this on the FM Towns Marty, and I own an original copy. It is quite rare and I love it, but the issue with that system is that for capturing, it does S-video out at the top quality. There is no RGB mod for it. It looks incredible on a CRT, but for capture it's just not great. So we are playing the arcade original. It's the exact same game, it just probably has a few more frames of animation. But Taito just went all the way with this game. It's so strange and so unique, the soundtrack is so charming, and it's so simple in how to play it. It's a game that you just have to experience. Is this the best beat 'em up ever made? Definitely not. It's B tier compared to something like Streets of Rage 2, Final Fight. There's a lot better, functional beat 'em ups than PuLiRuLa. But what I love about this game so much is just how unique it is. And there's definitely, articles about this in one individual part of the game that is extremely strange, and it kind of just gets put and relegated into a spot where it's a weird game. And that's true, it is a weird game in certain situations, but honestly, it's also just a unique artistic game that you just have to play and experience to enjoy. I love all the colors, I love the animations in the background with that clock tower just churning back and forth. It just feels like an art game. This is a piece of art that moves, that happens to foundationally have a video game around it, versus being a video game first and foremost that then has graphics applied to it. Some things are really simple, like the map screen, nothing happens on it whatsoever. But then you get into the levels, you have these really nice, pseudo reflections from the enemies. All of the colors are this really interesting pastel pinks and purples. And then you have the enemy sprites. That's basically like a furry octopus squid floating in midair, and every time you kill an enemy, they turn into a different animal which you can collect for points. It's really not explained why they're animals so much, just time is stopped and that's kind of the strangeness that happens. And occasionally one of them turns into a pumpkin head, which you can get different magic power-ups for, or you can have fairies assist you. But I love the art design of this game, and obviously if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I come from a fine art background as a filmmaker, and if you're new to the channel, I definitely value the art of the game as much as I do the game itself. And this is just something that you're never going to see again, and I'm surprised we saw it before. Some of the enemies make decent sense, like this, knight here with the sword on a pike. I can kind of get that, but then you end up in situations like this. This boss is just completely illogical. But it's a great soundtrack, so listen for about 25 seconds or so, and I'll come back and talk about why this game is really widely known. But enjoy! I will let you listen to more of the soundtrack in a little bit because it is great, but now that this level is coming up, this is what always gets mentioned about PuLiRuLa. It just gets relegated to the weird game category, and there definitely are some strange things going on. You have sprites that just look like real people from the real world, and pretty much any article that talks about this game has the following screenshot of it. There are giant human legs coming out of two holes in this wall, and there's a door in the middle. If you hit it, a pink elephant comes out. We all know what that's representational of, and it definitely is strange, and I don't know why it's in the game, and if you do play the North American ROM or version of this game, it is just completely missing, as you'll see here. But this game is so much more than this one scene. It's definitely part of it, and we should mention it, but this level continues to be weird and strange, but also charming. These enemies that come out of these bamboo stalks with the noses that inflate. There's so many frames of animation, and there's so much detail in each enemy. It's just an incredible game to see. But yeah, it's definitely weird, but some people really like that. I appreciate it. We're, basically fighting these walking, alcohol bottles, and they're just shooting red balls at us. I don't even know how to describe this as I talk about it, and now we're fighting a kabuki makeup actor. but it's just unique, and you're never going to see another game quite like this, and that's why I really wanted to talk about it again, not just because the FM Towns Marty is a rare console and it's fun to show a game on that back when I originally did the video, but it's just one of those games, if you're looking for a deep cut arcade release, something that doesn't really feel familiar, something you've never seen before, this is it, because even these background areas right now, they're just completely different than what we saw in the beginning of the game. They almost look like pre-rendered 3D, areas. What I'm going to let you do is listen to a little bit more of the soundtrack because it is extremely good. The soundtrack is something I would buy on vinyl, but I'll be back in about a minute and we'll close out why I wanted to talk about this game for a second time in the channel's history. Enjoy. Fun is that soundtrack, and that's a lot of what I love about this game, is the music is just so incredible, and it definitely plays into that fantasy world environment that we're dealing with, because now there's a giant snail with bug eyes, and again, it's never explained, and I kind of appreciate that this game doesn't actually try to explain too much to you as to what's going on in the world. It's strange, it's obscure, it's charming, and it just gets to survive on its own merits versus having to have that entire story told to you. And you can definitely play this game multiple ways. You can play an arcade ROM, you can buy an original board, you can get it on the FM Towns Marty or the Sega Saturn or the PlayStation 1, however you want to. What I will say is no version of this game is going to be cheap, so I might just suggest you put this in MAME and check it out, because if you're looking for a new arcade game that you've never encountered before, you could do a lot worse than this. And Taito always had a tradition of making, really mainstream games, but they always put out some more strange games, like you have motorcycle unicycles just flying around and they have faces on it. It kind of reminds me of Ninja Baseball Batman, although I would say that that game is definitely more accomplished in the beat 'em up category. This game just feels a little more charming. It's kind of more to my preference. Now you have this guy coming out with this gigantic cod piece, but we can use magic. Just don't do it too early, because if you do initiate the magic before you're able to strike the boss, you're going to just totally whiff it and blow past. And keeping your magic intact is going to be a huge mechanic of this, because we only have that one attack. We can jump and we can swing that curled magic staff, but otherwise your special moves are going to be super important to getting through this game. Although honestly, if you're not putting credits into it, it doesn't really matter how well you play because you're not spending any money. There definitely is enough strategy to it that you kind of want to save that magic up for the best times. And then weirdly, in just one spot in the game, you get a little bonus stage. You don't need to qualify for it, it just happens. But now we just get to hit as many of these fish, mermen, whatever they are, as possible. It's kind of like a reverse mermaid, human on the bottom, fish on the top, because normally mermaids go the other direction, and that's probably enough mermaid talk for this video. But again, if you've never checked this out, 100% do. Now we have this MC Escher inspired background, and granted, it really isn't moving around too much, but there's so much to see in this game that it's worth 20 minutes of your time, because you've probably never played anything like it, and you're probably never going to play anything like it after this. And that's what the great part about this game is it is wholly unique, especially if you're kind of getting jaded with, the current crop of, current gen releases. Everything kind of feels like a version of the same game, and that's why I love talking about these older arcade games, is that you can really play something that feels 100% unique and like something that came from the singular imagination of somebody who may have been an artist first and a video game designer second. But that is PuLiRuLa. It's weird, it's charming, it's unexplainable, and it has an amazing soundtrack. But I have some more games to talk about on Retro Revamp Rewind, because I did a lot of big titles in the beginning of my channel that I want to share more with you guys. But if you have any questions or comments, I'll leave them down below. I love chatting with you, and if you have played this game, I'd love to hear what you thought about it, because it's definitely divisive. Some people love it, and some people hate it. Short of that, I will have videos on Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as well. But we will be back with another Retro Revamp Rewind when I decide to schedule it. It's kind of a series that I put out when I kind of feel like it. Short of that, thanks so much for watching, guys. That's an eyeball wall, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.